introducing myself a lot and everything. But just a quick introduction. I am ATB Rakhi on internet or Twitter, wherever you want to find me. So yeah, let's talk about design systems. Before coming to this talk, you know, like you're talking to your friends and then you are saying, hey, I'm going to Poland and I'm going to talk about design system. So in that moment with few friends, I realized that it's not a lot of people necessarily knows what design system is. There are a lot of people who interpret it as, oh, it's about design. Oh, it's about using design somewhere else in your platform and everything, right? So let's start with what exactly design systems are and hows and whys around design system. So what design system is? In short, I won't read that for you, that's for you. But I'm going to summarize that for you. Design system, you can say it as it's a platform which is providing you all the components that you can use in during your development, and this is also for designers. Designers can use those components to build a UI, and as an engineer, I am a front-end engineer, so I use my design system to implement the same UI in the in my platform, and for that I don't have to do any design. My design system is already providing me with all the components that I need. So where, you know, like these days we are talking about design systems a lot. Why no one was talking about it, you know, maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I mean, let's forget the 2 years of Corona in between. So let's go back to 2016 maybe. Right, so let's take a step back and, you know, think about where are the roots of design system. We all know about Bootstrap. This is like one of the famous design system. No one called it design system though. We just know it by, hey, this has like, you know, lots of components that we can use in our projects or the work we are doing, right? And another one of the famous one is material design, and super cool one actually. And people, it was of course developed by Google. Not only it is used inside Google but outside Google as well. And it's super cool tool. You can design your own UI there and see, you know, how those components will look in your platform. But again, then you would say, hey, wait, isn't this a CSS framework or a style guide or maybe a pattern library? Why you are calling it a design system, you know? And now you would be wondering, wait, what just happened? I was promised an innovation, you know, and then I'm talking about a CSS library now. And when people talk about design system, it's like, oh yeah, that's, you know, super something new in the market and everything. But well, here we are. But yeah, you know, like now we know a bit about like where are the roots. Let's check out where this design system keyword came from. So we know we are gonna take some examples. We know Atlassian has their own design system, and the other one is Salesforce. Check it out. Atlassian named their whatever you want to call it, CSS library, framework. They named it Atlassian Design System. Salesforce named it Lightning Design System. GitHub is working towards it. GitHub named it Primer. At my employer, I work at Delivery Hero. We are also working on having our own design system. We called it Armor. And everyone is working on their own design system now. So one way to look at design system is, you can say, isn't it good? Like, instead of saying, hey, this is the library, this is the CSS library we are using, this is maybe a CSS inbuilt function or CSS framework, isn't it like good to say, this is our design system? And going back to what was the definition of design system comes with ready to use UI components for designer and for the developers. So it's as simple as that. You have something you can refer as design system. It is there. You have all the components. It doesn't matter if you're a designer or a developer. You have all the components there. You can use it. You can consume the design system to implement your project or something on the platform. So now you have, you know, a quick idea about what design system is. I want to talk about how people normally, you know, what kind of question people ask. So when we are talking about design system now, there are a lot of people who are not using design system at their place right now. So you must be wondering, I also want to have a design system. You know, there are lots of questions you have in your head, and people ask these questions. People are asking when they get introduced to design system, how to create a design system, what components I want to have, or how to implement those components. And you know, you see, like, I have how as pretty big. This is the question people are asking. But the question people should ask is, why? Why do you need a design system? What is the reason behind it? Do you really need it? Is this the reason why you want design system? Like maybe, you know, like we as engineers, or let's say people in tech industry, are very much influenced by what is hot in market. You know, people are talking about CSS and Servlet.js and whatnot. So why not system design, right? Design system, right? So if your answer to this meme is yes, this is the reason you want, maybe it's time for you to take a step back. Think again, why do you need a design system? But if your question, if your answer to this meme is like, no, that's not the reason why we want to use it, then let's figure out why someone should have design system. So doesn't matter what you know, how many people you have in your company, but if you have few platforms that different teams are working on that platform, for example, the platform I work with, we have like 14-15 pages, and we are pretty data heavy team. That means, like, my team name is vendor management. So we are the owners of everything vendor you can imagine in food industry. And so that means we have lots of data, and our platform is pretty data heavy, and we are allowing user to manipulate data in many different ways. And then one day I was working with another team, and then I was looking at their platform, and then I just couldn't understand what was the decision behind having that particular navigation or having that particular design for the model, right? And it was super confusing to me. And if you have ever came across this kind of situation, you would be like, okay, this is what we call, you know, inconsistency. We have like in the platform I'm working on, we have like 15 pages, and one thing we really care about is consistency, and that's really important. And this is going to be a big part of our the whole design system here. And the another thing that we talk about is CSS. How much CSS you write? Like, it's not a bad thing to write CSS, right? It's good. But what about custom CSS? How much? Like, do you have like piles of custom CSS that you have written? And just imagine that if you are writing that much of CSS on your platform, what about the other team? They are writing as much CSS also, right? So this is another point to consider. And the third point is documentation. When you're working on one platform, right? What about questions like, hey, why the button is blue here? Why it is primary here? Why it is secondary there? And then you go to another pages, and then you are like, hey, what was the reason behind having this color on this button? Or what was the reason behind the behavior of this page? Right? So every time you are implementing something like that, as an engineer, you get requirements from your product managers, or just the team. Different team works different ways. So I'm not gonna call product managers. You can call it product owners, or whoever manages in your team, right? So you have a requirement and you want to implement this. So most of the time, the way to go for front-end engineers is you discuss this with the designer. Hey, you know, you have a question. Oh, this is a primary button. Why do we have this primary button, right? You ask these questions to designer. And now think about, you already implemented that. You have moved on to another opportunity. There is another person came in, and now they are also asking the same question to the designer. Why do we have the primary button here, and why do we have secondary button there? And what was the reason behind this behavior of the page, right? So you see how many duplicate work. I would call it a duplicate work. You are, for designer, it's a pain, because they have to answer same questions every time a new person is getting onboarded to that page, or getting introduced to that page, or implementing the same thing, right? So these are the most important whys that I would ask when it comes to having a design system. Now that we know what are the whys of the design system, let's look at once you know like when you're talking about anything, you know why you need something, then you look for what should be the goal. If I'm gonna have a design system in my team, what should be the goal, right? So let's look at the goal. If you decide that you want to have a design system in your team, you can read the goals, but I'm going to talk about that in details. So design consistency. I was just telling you about how it is pain for designers when every time a front-end engineer has to implement something, they come to them and then question their decision. What if you have something on the company level that is documented why it is a primary color, why it is a secondary color? In general, when I'm talking about primary, that simply means it's a primary action. When I'm talking about secondary button, it simply means it's a secondary action. And if there is a behavior for a page, then it can be managed on the team level also, and it can be managed on, there can be rules, different rules for different companies, right? And about the consistency, right? So as I was mentioning earlier, my team is pretty data heavy team, and when I started almost 2 years ago at Delivery Hero, and the project I'm working on, we started it from the scratch. So me and my teammates started it, and then it was on us to decide how we want to move forward. We didn't have any design at that time, so it was just me and my teammate who had everything. One thing that we agreed on 2 years ago, we're gonna have consistency in our application, and we still follow it. And the design system that we used in our that time, we decided we don't have any designer, and neither do design systems. So this was a kind of a problem because we didn't have any designer. We had a support from a designer who was like part-time for our team, and it was a issue for us. So we decided for the consistency reason, we are going to use Material UI design system. This allowed us to be consistent among pages, even though, and how this consistency helped us. Once, I remember we released our first page after 2-3 months of starting the project, and we onboarded few users there. And after that, we started releasing more and more pages. At this point, we have like 14 or 15 pages that we released on that particular platform. And when we released the first page, we had to spend quite a lot of time onboarding our users. They had lots of questions, but I started to notice a pattern. When we onboarded them next time, they had less question about the behavior. Next time, they had less question. And it's like now we release, still they do have some questions, but more of it comes to functionality, not the design decisions. And how it helped us, why I'm telling you this story, is because consistency can help your users also. Imagine like you're familiar, your eyes are already familiar with the UI, and you go to that web page, and how quick it would be for you to navigate around the web page. For example, we had some model components. At one point we decided we want to use a third-party library, and what we did was we decided we're going to use this third-party library, but we want to customize this third-party library to have exact same functionality design-wise, just because of consistency. And it made sense because this library had completely new UI, but at the end we ended up customizing this library to have same models and same, the operations you perform mostly on the UI, CRUD operations when it comes to deleting, creating something. So we decided we're gonna have like almost same models there. I'm saying almost, but actually we have exactly same model. Just forget about the form data part where you have to manage it according to the pages and according to the data. So it helped our users quite a lot, and as an engineer, it was helpful for us because we don't have to write lots of custom CSS, and we don't have to answer lots of questions. What was the decision behind this one, right? And of course, like when I'm saying we didn't have to write lots of CSS, it already covers the fourth point that says reduce the custom CSS file and the documentation. When you have a design system, we at Delivery Hero, we recently, not recently, but almost like when I started, we the another team, the design system team, we called them Armor. They also started, but they were small. They didn't have lots of components that we needed that time. So that's why we decided we want to go with Material UI. But now they are at good position, and they have all the components that anyone needs for implementing any kind of platform. So they have everything documented there. We just need to go there and then just use the components. If I don't understand how this component gonna be used, I just read their documentation and then I use it, and it works fine. So far I didn't have to reach out to them, hey, this is not working. It works perfectly fine. And then you must be wondering how it will affect the development workflow and onboarding, right? So imagine like you are working on something on your platform. How the situation would be if you already have components implemented. For example, just take an example of simple UI. You have a text field or menu field component that you would like to use in your page. You have some buttons, delete button or just add button, right? The problem here is there is actually no problem here. There is the point here. The point is, how about if you don't have to focus on implementing the menu field? How about if you can just import menu field from a system and then you focus on just sending the menu field data to the API and updating the data on your UI? So you focus on the logic and the components are being managed by design system. You see, it already reduces the work you are doing. And it same applies for like if you have for someone new who is coming, they can focus on the business logic that you are delivering on your platform instead of focusing on creating components. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I am saying it is making you fast, right? Because you can just focus on delivering the UI logics and the development workflow, right? So it reminds me of a situation a couple of weeks ago. We had a ticket in our Jira system, and it was a design-related system. We were supposed to start working on a project that we are working on right now, but we didn't have a design for it. We didn't have a designer, and no one in my team knew design, and no one was picking it up. I also didn't know design, so I was like, I cannot do that, so I'm not going to take it. And it was also painful for me to see no one is picking up that ticket. So one day randomly I told my team, hey, you know what, I'm thinking I might take this ticket. I cannot guarantee your result, but I will try, right? And then team was super nice. My team is people, everyone wants to work with. So they are super amazing. And so, like empathy, this kind of empathy is really important when they say, yeah, we don't expect you to come up with a perfect design. So great, go ahead. And then I went ahead. We collected all the data points from user research, and we already collected all the data or modules we needed from our API endpoints, and to compare what exactly needs to be done on the UI. I went to Figma. I struggled there. That was my struggle. I'm talking about design systems here, but I struggled on design. You will be surprised what I'm going to say next. I struggled with design on Figma tool, not the design. We already had all the components there. I had all the user data points from user research in front of me. When I started putting everything together, I felt like I'm really putting all the puzzles together to create a UI. That's how I felt like, and it wouldn't have been possible without the design system we already had on Figma. So it's like, imagine you are creating a model. What a model, like imagine the components a model need. A typography for the title, what kind of model you have on the top. It needs a cancel button, it needs a save button, and something in between, whatever data you want to provide for your users, right? And that's all you need. And what if a design system is already providing you with typography, cancel button, save button, menu field, or autocomplete field, or whatever you need, right? Calendar field, or anything you need. So what are you gonna do? You're just gonna create a box and put all the fields together. Design system is already giving you all the components. So at the end, when I created that whole page, I felt like I was just putting puzzles together there. And when I scheduled a meeting with my team to say, hey, you know, I want to present the design and get some feedback from you guys, I was so nervous, thinking how I'm gonna tell them it's so easy. Maybe they will thought I already knew the design and I was faking it. I was so nervous. But again, as I said, my team is the best team. Everyone wants to work with them. So I collected the feedbacks and just iterated over the designs I was working on, and then now we are implementing it. And there will be the situation where you want to introduce new components also. That's like also easy. I had one situation, just one component that I needed to introduce in the whole application. It was a tab component. Anything tabs, like when I say tabs, what do you imagine? It's a like a box, and then you have some text in the box, and you click, and then you can switch to different tabs, right? So what do you imagine? A box and the typography with on-click function and a value that will switch, right? So what if someone is already providing you with a box and typography? You see how creating a wireframe is easy when you already have all the components available, right? So don't confuse these two things. When we are talking about design system, it is not just helping engineers, it is also helping designers, because you already have all the components, and then you can use that components to create your wireframes, and then engineers can use the components to create to implement the functionality that they want to implement, right? So this should be the goal of design system if you want to create. But now, I also want to share like how we are doing it at Delivery Hero, and then the challenges we faced. As I said, like the team Armor at Delivery Hero started like almost 2 years ago, and they were a very small team. And then they were flooded with the request, hey, we needed text field, hey, we need autocomplete. At some point, we reached out to them and we said, hey, we need a calendar component. And and then they were very overwhelmed, and they said, no, we cannot do a calendar component right now. Because you have to say these things. If you are among the team who is implementing the design system, you have to say no many times. But then comes, how would you prioritize things, right? That's the point. That's the second point. Prioritize components. How would you prioritize this component? There are several ways of prioritizing the components. First, look at how many requests you have. When we requested a calendar component from Armor team, we asked them why you rejected our request. Isn't it your job to provide us with all the components? And then they say, we were not able to give high priority to your component. And we asked why. It was because they had many requests from different teams. Imagine there's one team who is requesting them a calendar component, there is another team who is requesting them text field component, and there is 2 more teams who is requesting them text field components. So it is 3 versus 1. We are 1, there is 3 team who is expecting them to implement a text field component. So by default, they are gonna implement text field component there. It's about numbers here. But again, you would say that's not fair every time, right? Because maybe I am from the team, even if I am just 1, maybe I'm from the team who works on implementing highly used pages. Maybe the component I'm asking for will go on and make it to highly used pages, right? That time, as a design system team, it's your responsibility to check out if someone is requesting this data from you, or oh, that's quite distracting actually. Right, so what I was saying, yes, if someone is requesting some components from you, you need to see which team they are from, where they are going to use this component, because you cannot just look at the numbers, how many people are using this component, and say no or yes, okay, yeah, sure, we can do it for you. You have to be like very straightforward there and say, hey, right now we are not giving priority to it, but maybe next time, maybe after 2 weeks, next sprint, or maybe next quarter we will tackle this because we have requests from other teams also. So there are 3 things that you can observe here. How many requests do you have for that particular component? where this team is going to use that particular component, and is this a frequently visited page? What if it is a user-facing page and user is blocked by this particular component? It's not like, you know, user will be completely blocked, but it might affect how much money you are generating from that page, right? So these are the few things that is like really important to note when you are working on design system, and important to prioritize when you are implementing design systems. But the one point you notice, I talked about two things, that my team is using Material UI, and then there is a team who is implementing Armor design system. So you would be asking, then why you are not using the Armor design systems? You know, you will find there are lots of people, lots of teams who are in this situation. But the problem there is I cannot vouch for a system if it is not providing me all the components I need, right? So exactly that was the situation for my team. We couldn't vouch for our own design system because they were not able to provide the components we need, and we wanted to go fast. That's one of the biggest thing all the teams say, we want to go fast, right? Because when you are just 2 people or 5 people, you can just implement the component and you can go fast, and it's super straightforward. But that's okay, you know, but that's completely okay. Now our system is ready, and we do plan to migrate. We used Material UI in last 2 years. We are finishing up, we are migrating a huge old code base, and we are like migrating it to the new platform that we wrote in React and TypeScript, and we use Material UI. But now we are ready. We already are talking in our team how we can start using the Armor. The best thing is when you have a design system is already providing with you all the functionalities that you need. So even though we looked around and saw what we need to do, we figured it's not a lot we need to do. It's the matter of where you are importing that component from. We are importing that component from Material UI. Now we're going to import that component from our own design system, Armor. So that's how it works for us right now, and we're gonna do it. So yeah, that would be it actually. That's all for my talk, and thank you for listening.